I'm here today with Roberta Campbell. We're so glad that she's able to share her faith journey with us today in our Generations of Faith podcast. So welcome, Roberta.
Thank you.
So I know that you have a fascinating history to tell us. And I know that faith has been important for you for all of your life. I've heard enough of your stories to know that faith has always been important to you. So maybe would you like to start with some of your earliest memories about faith and God and how that has played a role in your life?
In our family, we always say there's never a reason not to go to church.
Oh.
So I grew up going to church every Sunday school and church. And my dad was a funeral director, so there were times when he couldn't always go. But the church was very close to the house. It was up on top of a hill, but it was easy to get to. And so I never missed. And my mother and dad didn't either. But sometimes mother stayed with someone to be at home.
Sure.
But my dad never missed when he was, and nor did I.
Well, where was this church that you're talking about?
In Aliquippa, and It was
Okay.
called Woodlawn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Presbyterian, although there was a United Presbyterian up the street. They were separated at that time.
Yes, they were.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was, they had come in from Mount Carmel, which was a church that my ancestors started that was out near Sheffield in Hopewell Township, and that's where the farmers, where they all went. And but this was in town, and the funeral home was in Aliquippa, and so they went to Woodlawn.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as I said, we didn't miss. We also said grace at every meal and prayed every evening when we went to bed.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely must feel that shaped your life.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. It was a very large part of my life. Always the church has been, and my parents have, it was always Sunday you went to church.
Do you have any special memories of church and growing up?
Well, we had, not so much when I was little. Well, actually, Aliquippa was surrounded by at least 5 Presbyterian churches. And with my dad's business, he buried in all their cemeteries. They all had cemeteries. And so we often, if they had an old home day, which they did at the time, where people would come back, then we would go to that. And if the church dinners, the women would call and say, Ed, how many they never asked if he wanted a ticket. It was, how many tickets do you want?
Oh, so they gave him the tickets.
He bought all his tickets,
yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to all the church dinners and strawberry festivals. And so I just grew up. I always went along with my dad. If he, sometimes my mother didn't go. As I said, there always had to be somebody in the office. So sometimes she didn't, or other times we all 3 went, depend on whoever was with us, work schedule and things. But so I grew up pretty much, church was a big thing.
Did you have any special hobbies or anything you particularly liked to do when you were in school?
Not really. I read a lot. And I still read a lot. My mother read to me also, all the time. And the library was across the street from the funeral home. And so I spent a lot of time in the B.F. Jones Memorial Library. J&L Steele was the big thing. Mm-hmm. And it was Jones and Laughlin. And Jones built the library in Aliquippa, and Laughlin built the library in Ambridge. But it was right across the street from the funeral home. I spent a lot of time there.
Did you live at the funeral home?
Yes,
Mhm.
we had the funeral home went from the front street to the back street, and there was a side street along the side, and it had my dad bought the house and then built this 4-car garage. We had a hearse and a limousine, and then a runaround car and a pickup car for bodies. So it was a really large garage, and the apartment, when he had that before, and he put an addition on the front too of this house. So he had that before he got married, and then when they got married, they built on top of that garage. We had a large living room, 13 by 20, and a large dining room and kitchen and bath and bedroom. And then in the funeral home, could be shut off. And then the funeral home, there was another bedroom. And then you could go up to the upstairs, which when I was a teenager was my room, and there was a sink up there. There were 2 rooms on the 3rd floor.
Mm-hmm.
And, then one was mine.
What did you think growing up in a funeral home? And what did your friends think?
Well, I don't know. I didn't think anything about it. I mean, when I was 8, I would open the door and say, "Do you want to see Mrs. So-and-so or Mr.
Mm-hmm.
So-and-so?"
That was your role?
That was my role.
Okay.
Yeah. And my mother always said my dad kept me so busy doing things for him that I never got to do the dishes or things like that.
Oh, darn.
But we, like if he needed things for a body, like underwear or stuff, I'd run down. The stores in Aliquippa were like a block away from the funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
So I would run down and get that for. I loved doing those things, and if he went somewhere to do business, or I often tagged along before I was in school, with him, and it's just it was kind of fun. It never bothered me. He used to always say, "It's the living you should be afraid of, not the dead."
Sometimes that's true. That's good.
And the big thing was that if we were busy, I mean, it was all business, and so I couldn't hoop and holler around or do.
You had to be respectable, right?
Oh, yeah. Or be in the apartment and quiet. You couldn't be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could be in the whole building.
Sure.
We had these 2 rooms in the front, the apartment, and then these 2 big rooms in the front where the family often sat during a funeral, where I could just be any time. So I guess it was different. I never thought of it as being different, but I guess it was.
Mm-hmm. I think it's unique.
It is unique.
Not too many people can say that they did that.
Right. But if you notice, at that time, a really serious funeral director lived in the funeral home.
I was going to say, I'm not sure they do that anymore. What do you think?
Well, they don't. Laughlin's has, I think, a room upstairs.
They do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe one of the guys who works there, Yeah, I don't think they do, but then it was definitely the thing.
Yeah.
And my dad was very innovative. He started having funeral layouts in the funeral home. Before that, they had them in their homes.
That's right.
And this was like it's why he called it a funeral home, because it was to be comfortable like your home, but it was in the chapel.
I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. So he did some innovative things like that as a young funeral director.
Wow.
On his own and stuff.
Well, what about growing up in the church? Was there any part of church that you enjoyed, or what? Or were you in a youth group, or I don't know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we had the people in our Sunday school. I really enjoyed everything about Woodlawn. I've been living in town, and a lot of the people are not. So these were friends of mine who I saw, on Sunday, and activities we did at church and things like that. And we had, as I said, in Sunday school, we went all through Sunday school and church. And our youth group, we used to go Sunday evening for youth group. And then we would go to a local drugstore for a sundae or a milkshake afterwards.
Fun.
So we didn't want to miss youth group because we wanted to go to the drugstore for the.
So it was a chance for everybody to get together.
Yeah, it was a very good chance because most of them didn't live downtown, but the church was, and so that was, kind of, that's when all my friends were. And through high school, most of my friends were my church friends.
Mm-hmm. Was there anybody in the church that you looked up to or who was a mentor type?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to. I can't.
Nobody's coming to mind.
I'm trying to think of that. Not only the ministers in the church, but I mean, with funerals, we had a lot of ministers around all the time.
You probably did.
Different ones, and there were some that I really liked. And I can't think. Not particularly someone who I would say that I'm trying to think of someone who maybe I looked up to. Well, another thing, I came from a long line of ministers too. All the Wallaces, Wallace Memorial, Wallace at Westminster, are related.
So how are you related to them?
Well, my mother is related to the Wallaces, and my dad's sister married a Wallace. And so somewhere in my mother's, Rachel Wallace, that was it. Rachel Wallace married Reed, and a Reed married McConnell, which is my mother's maiden name. So we're related to all the Wallaces, and so they were all ministers.
How about that? Where's your mother from?
Same thing.
Okay.
Outside Holoclippo.
Oh, okay.
My dad was more Center Township, their farm.
Uh-huh.
My mother was from Independence. It was called Independence.
Okay.
It was a little village, and her dad was a country doctor.
You were telling me, too, about you have a long legacy of elders in your family.
We do.
So how does that work?
Well, they started in Mount Carmel, and it goes up, and you figure you're an elder for life. So you've got Hill Dowds, who lived to be 99, and then my grandfather, they were elders, and my dad was an elder, and I was an elder. So it's a long line of elders in the Presbyterian
many
Church.
Generations of elders.
Through the generations.
That's a wonderful thing. And you're an elder here at this church.
Yeah, for 9 years. Yeah. And then when we started meeting twice a month, I also had a commitment to College Club, Howell Hills College Club, that one of those, and it just, so after, I had been a trustee 6 years here, and then I was an elder for 9, and I just thought it's getting, I would take the silver to College Club, come to the meeting, then leave, and it was too much.
You were juggling too much.
It was, and I felt I had served 6 and 15, but I still had, I'd still serve communion. Oh, and then I was in charge of scheduling that for quite a while. Even, when I wasn't, on the board, I still did that. The one fellow said, "Would you continue?" And I said, "Sure." So.
Well, that's a really a kind of a big responsibility to do that.
Well, I would call them at home and say you're serving, and
good,
and had a schedule, to do that. It wasn't just seeing them on Sunday morning.
Well, I'm sure the pastor really appreciated you doing that.
I did it with John Powell, and I started before that. And I said to Tim, "Do you want someone to do this?" And he said, "No, it looks like it's running well."
Oh.
So I kept doing it.
Well, I'll keep that in mind, Roberta. Definitely.
Well, Sheldon was, we were in our Sunday school class, which are Hellmates. We were in there always. I mean, here we were part of that. It was a wonderful, wonderful group. Did, the socials and big Christmas, events and things like that. But one time I was in class, and sometimes, well, one time I was in class, and one of the teachers was saying, "Oh, we don't have a teacher. We don't have a teacher. We don't have this. We don't have that. Maybe we should just disband." And I thought, not on my watch. So I said, "Oh, okay. We will be we will be presidents." Well, actually, the president got the teachers, so that was we had no I said, "We'll be presidents," because it was by couples, and within 4 minutes, we had all the officers. So Dawn was in the choir for 51 years. And so I said to him after church, "We are now the presidents of Helpmates class."
Oh, I see. He wasn't there when you volunteered.
No, and I said,
told him.
"And you can teach."
Oh.
So he taught for 7 years.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And he said, "Well, I don't know, but I had a book of sermons by one of the Shadyside ministers, not Scarf, but after Scarf." And I said, "Look, he had a sermon on working in Pittsburgh, working downtown, Christianity downtown." And I said, "It's like, 10 reasons or something like that." And so Dawn started with that and took two Sundays, and everybody was really, really good. And then in the same book, he had, I think it was Donaldson, and he had a thing on Seth. And nobody preaches on Seth. And so Dawn taught on Seth. So that started him off. And
Fascinating.
He did that for 7 years.
I bet he was a really good teacher.
He was really good,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
but as
wonderful.
I said, and all our friends have been helpmates.
You were a very close group.
Mm-hmm.
And you still are, aren't you?
Yeah, we have, in fact, next Saturday, we have the women have their luncheon and together.
That's very
so
nice. And
forth.
you're really a big support for each other.
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we, I think we do.
Do you think that's one of the highlights of church for you? To have that family support, or what do you think?
Well, for me, the most important thing is on a Sunday morning is the preaching and the music.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was growing up, I was not big on the music, and of course I don't think it was as good as what. But when I went to college, because I went to church every Sunday, I started looking immediately for a church in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to 4 Presbyterian churches, and then I got to Shadyside, and Dr. Scarf was the minister, and I thought I died and went to heaven. It was absolutely the best thing ever. And so for 4 years, I walked to Shadyside every Sunday morning.
Oh, that's wonderful. Did you go to Chatham? Okay, you were at Chatham. All right.
And it was fun because we'd be singing the first hymn, and I'd hear a ruffle in the back, and there would be 9 Kappa Sig guys going up to the balcony, always in the first verse of the first hymn. So I always had a ride home because I was dating one guy, and he was in church. And so no, I just, and then they had a Wednesday evening, Technon or Pitkin, and Chatham could choose. So, of course, my boyfriend was head of Technon, so I went to Technon, and that was Dr. Scar. The assistant minister had the Pitcon. And so, the women served us dinner.
Wow.
And this was for college, and they're still doing stuff over there with college stuff, for college kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think we paid like 35 cents for the dinner or something like that. It was very reasonable. And we'd have dinner, and then one of the ministers would talk. And as I said, I don't think I ever missed. Because the music, he was such a good preacher, and the music was, I like sermons that I can think about all week.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was, and so then I got myself on the, as a senior, I got myself on the baccalaureate committee, because I thought, okay, we want scarf. I want scarf to do the baccalaureate.
Oh,
So the girls of the committee were saying, oh, well, we don't know. I said, go and listen to them. Okay, everyone came back and said, you're right. So he did our baccalaureate, which was really outstanding. And everybody, I was kind of pleased about that. But that was an ulterior motive, was to get on the committee so that we'd have some,
Well, I'm glad that worked out.
I am too.
So tell me about college. Well, first of all, I'm really impressed that you sought out a church to go to and that you went also on Sunday night. That's really...
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always gone to church. Why would I, not?
I think that's pretty great.
So,
I wish we were doing things like that still today.
well, I can, Eric went, I know Bethany went to, they had the congregation, there. And actually, when Sheldon was he had a year at Kent put on by Stanford for German teachers. And I could go, if I would have had to quit if I went right with him, out with that year. He was teaching, he could leave. So I go in second semester. I could do that and take a leave. And we went to a Congregationalist church there. They didn't have a Presbyterian church at Kent. They had this, which is a New England type of similar, it seemed. So we went to that every Sunday there, out in Kent. So I've never really missed too many Sundays.
That's pretty great. So tell me, how did you meet Sheldon?
Well, okay, I happened to be at Loose Ends time, and there were two, I was up at, my apartment was on, I was teaching here, and my apartment was on, right below the shopping center there. I had an apartment with a friend, and I would go up to Isley's and get something after school, and there were these teachers from the high school, Julia Myers, who was a soloist in our church, and Harry Haddon, and a couple other would just gather for coffee. And so they said, oh, come on over and have coffee with us. So I did that for a while. And then Sheldon had been in Greensburg teaching and in the Army, and people from Mount Lebanon came up there and spent several periods and offered him a job. So he was new, but he had Harry Haddon at Pitt. So Harry says, oh, we've got this, I don't know if he said to him, we've got this girl up here that has coffee with us, but I'd like you to meet her. So, but I think, anyway, that was the purpose, and he said to me, we've got, this young man who just came in and so forth. So we had coffee together, and so when we left, I said, so who else do you know?
Oh, really? So are you saying that you weren't exactly smitten?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so Dawn said to them, oh, she seems like a nice girl, but not my type. So anyway, but he kept staying for coffee, and so all the year, his friend in March got tickets to a German band that was in Syria Mosque, and said, oh, get a girl and come. And Dawn said, I'm not dating anybody. I don't know who okay. Oh, I know someone might want to come. Okay, so this was probably March. So he said, called me up, pretended he was, the head of the school district and was playing along, and so asked me if I'd go, and I said, sure. I figured I wasn't doing anything else, I might as well. So we went out and we had the absolute best time. Well, first of all our upbringing was identical. Just the same kind of thing, Presbyterians and all this. So anyway, that was probably March, and so we started dating, and we got engaged in July and married the next April.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, we were, a little bit, we both had relationships, so we knew what we kind of wanted. So anyway, that's how we met.
Oh, that's great. So tell me about your nickname. How did you get that nickname, Bunsey?
I was 6 weeks old. My middle name is Joy, And my dad was carrying me through the hall, and he said, "You're my bundle of joy. I think I'll call you Bunsey."
Oh, cute.
And see, my mother's name was Roberta too. So everybody in Beaver County.
So that helped with the Robertas in your household anyway.
Yeah. And so I was all through Chatham, all through everything, and mostly the people who knew me from the beginning up here. Yeah, well then Don decided I think his mother decided he didn't like Bunsey. So, or he wanted Roberta.
Oh.
So, and everybody else calls me Roberta. You know.
What do you like?
Well, I always say, my name's Roberta, but there's always a little Bunsey inside.
Oh.
So I kind of like Bunsey.
Yeah, most people here call you Bunsey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's what be people I knew when I first,
Yeah.
Because I joined here before Dawn, before we were married.
Oh, you did?
I was teaching kindergarten. I was still going over to Shadyside. And I had a little girl in my class called Ruthie Wissiger.
Oh.
And Betty would come to pick her up, and we started talking. And I thought, this woman is such a happy woman. You know how you're young, you think, oh, my, romantically and so forth. She's just always so happy.
Oh,
and so
wow.
we'd start talking, and she'd say, well, my husband's a minister down here. Why don't you? And so I did.
And he was a really great minister,
Oh,
wasn't
he was fabulous. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people kind of hold him up as a model of
Well, I hold Miles up as a model.
Miles, yeah.
Yeah. He was here the first 22 years of our marriage, which was a fabulous thing.
Oh.
You know, he was here when Eric was born. He called from, you know, and we became really pretty good friends. I mean, all of it. There were like 4 couples and so forth, and we'd have dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
But he was through all our parents dying. So to be there for our first, David, he really, he and David really connected.
Oh.
You know, he flew up for his wedding.
Oh, how wonderful.
Which was really nice, yeah.
Yeah.
And he used to laugh because, the Campbells murdered the McDonalds in Scotland, so he would always come up with that.
Yeah, you're supposed to be rivals or something, right?
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. So as I said, we just and I think part of it was that I like with Shadyside, I like with our church was the preaching and the music was just so beyond what I grew up with, and I just really loved it so much. For me, that was just such a worship, And as I said, I like to think of a sermon all week. I like, to that. I mean, anyway, yeah. So that's how I got here. Was with Ruthie, little Ruthie.
How about that?
Yeah.
Aw. Well, I wanted to ask you too, has there been a time when you've seen God's faithfulness at work in your life?
Definitely. I can think of 2. Well, I think he's always working in my life. But I can think of when I was out of college, and I had dated a young man in college for 4 years, and I probably had every intention of marrying him. And he went to Michigan to get his, from here and to get a doctor's in chemical. Well, anyway, and so we were far away, but that was okay. I went out a couple of times, But there was a guy at home in our church we had dated in high school, and he always liked me, and so a lot of times I went home because I wasn't. George was out, and might as well go home. I was working. And so Frank started, and I wasn't pinned or anything, so he would start asking me out and so forth. And so we went out, and I have no idea. I still don't know why I decided to break up with George, the one I had gone with 4 years and been madly in love with. And Frank asked me to marry him, and I said, okay. Well, then I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, So I went along with fine, and he goes off the Army, and my mother and I were sitting, and I said something about not being really, and my mother said, well, do something about it.
Oh,
So I broke off that engagement, and so I was kind of, free for a while, because George was not interested in me.
so did you have to write Frank a Dear John letter?
I did. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you'll love this one. So I had the ring, so my dad had a safe in his office, so I gave him the ring. He put it in the safe, and I went off to California for 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Frank came home, he went down to get his ring. I said, my dad has it in the safe, and my dad had him write a receipt, sign a receipt for the ring.
Well, that was probably smart.
Well, that's what, So anyway, so I kind of floated around, and then I told you how I met, Sheldon.
Well, tell me again.
Well, we met with these friends and
Okay.
fixed us up in Isley's.
Okay.
Okay, and that was like 2 years later, and I had dated a couple people, and it's the first time in my life I hadn't really gone with someone, and I still had no idea why I had broken up with George.
Yeah.
I just really had no idea.
Yeah.
So then I met Sheldon, and as I said, we, both had relationships, so we were ready to settle. And I think it was the best thing. I can see God did that whole thing.
It seems
I
like
really
it was
felt
just
so.
orchestrated.
Yeah, it was, because there's no reason why I would have broken up with George. There's absolutely no reason. And I don't know how I felt that I did. Obviously, something was missing. And I probably would have been happy, but I've been very happy. Sheldon and I really melded well.
It always seemed like it to me.
Yeah, together.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were.
It seemed like you shared values
We
and
did. Yeah.
and thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. And so I've been very happy, but that was when I mean, don't tell me God didn't do that, because I believe he definitely felt I shouldn't, And the last thing was recently when the business with my house and the condo. And so I always wanted to go to Cochran Hall. Okay, so I put my house up for sale and I went to Chautauqua. And there wasn't anything there. There was this one that was 6 rooms, and it was $45,000 more than I wanted to pay. And I thought, oh, I don't. And it was in the 80s decorated, And I thought, oh no, yeah. So I went to Chautauqua, and I thought, God, if you don't want me to move there, then where do you want me to go? And I prayed about it, and I thought maybe the James on something else. Well, then this one came up, this just 2-bedroom, just probably what I thought I wanted. And so I thought, okay, I'm moving out of my house, like 2 o'clock going into this and so forth. Well, this man decided that he had bought it. He had bought that place. Verbally. Well, so he was raising all kinds of fuss with the owners.
Oh.
So they couldn't do anything. So they said to me, okay, you can move in and pay just the HOA, for 3 months. It was maybe 4 months. And so I started to move boxes and move stuff in. And Jenna Stein, a friend of mine, came over, and we were emptying stuff in the kitchen. I said, you know what, Jenna? I'm not going to be happy here. And I called the realtor, and I said, let me look at that one big one again. So we went up and looked at it, and Eric and Kristen came over, and we looked at it. And I said, okay, I'll go, and from the other one, I said, I'll go up 10, and we'll see. Well, it took them a week, and I don't think they were happy about it, but it took them, but nothing had moved on it for a year. Took them a week, and they came down $35,000. And I know the whole thing was the Lord. The whole thing, absolutely. Through the whole, because I wasn't stressed, this is just what, and I couldn't buy it, which was, what if I had bought it and decided I didn't like it?
Right.
So nobody can tell me that wasn't the Lord doing that. And I had expressed that, different people. So anyway, and then one night so I got the big one, and one night I was in bed and I thought, Sheldon would really like this.
Oh.
And that made me feel good,
Mm-hmm.
when I thought that.
Yeah.
So I know, as I said, that was a big move.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody asked you what's it been like for you to live your life as a Christian, trusting in God and having faith in Jesus as your Savior, what would you tell them? Like, what are the benefits?
I think, well, for one thing, as I one time said in Sunday school, you can go off the cliff and not worry about falling. You can make decisions and not worry because you know the Lord's there. And I don't know. I just think I've just been very happy, and I think that's a lot of it.
So you just feel like you're safe in God's hand. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I excuse me. I don't sit and think about it, but yeah, I just think that things have happened that maybe were really sad and too bad, but I've never looked at them that way. I think part of it's I don't know. I just have always trusted.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest thing is I've trusted.
You've trusted
In God.
So even when things are really sad, you feel like...
I'm not a sad person.
Mm-hmm.
I just am not.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Sheldon passed away, of course I grieved. I think you grieve for like 2 years, seriously, and I still on occasion grieve for my mother and dad. I wish they'd seen this or done that or something.
Yeah.
But I don't get ups. It's not something that puts me down. It's just puts down. And I think my mother always used to say I'd never crossed a bridge till I was on it. And I think part of it is the faith that it's going to be okay.
That's really wonderful.
Well,
I wish everybody had that kind of faith.
It's, I think it's just growing up in the situations that I've been in, the business of being around people who are doing it, and so forth. I don't know if that had anything to do or not. Just, I've been very fortunate. I've had a very fortunate life. I've been blessed, very much so.
Well, there's so many things that you have accomplished in your life. And here you are, you're still teaching every single day, which is just remarkable. So looking back over your life, what would you say what are you happiest about?
Well, I'm happiest about many things, I had a happy childhood. And Dawn and I had a happy marriage, and I'm very proud of Eric and his family, and David, I know, has some physical problems, and I feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I just have always, maybe some of it's been outlook too, is my parents were that way also. They were not, you'd think my dad was funny. My mother was smart and really, they both had good sense of humor, and I think that's been, maybe, nobody was ever mourning or, downbeat.
Yes. You also are a leader, aren't you?
Well, that's probably comes from my mother.
Yeah, because I know that I think that you've taken advantage of all the opportunities that you've had, or a lot of the
A
opportunities.
lot, I have, yeah. My mother was president of everything she belonged to. You know, of course, she was principal at Lincoln, which is,
Right.
you know, and my dad wasn't a follower. He had vision, but he wasn't like the, you know, the leader of organizations. You know, as because with him it was all business. You know, with like she was, and yeah, I suppose so. I mean, like at AG, you know, LGA in general, I love doing all that. I loved. I started some. They weren't doing anything when I first joined the auxiliary, and so I started a bake sale, and then we went into the Christmas sale, and I did 8 fashion shows. I chaired 8 fashion shows. I had wonderful
Oh, my
people
goodness.
that worked with me. The women I met there, a lot of them were doctors' wives, were just wonderful people. I enjoyed working with them, and we all, I think, did some good things, you know, and I still like going over there. I'm still in the auxiliary. You
Oh,
know.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, I don't do, because I'm teaching, so I don't do, you know, volunteering as much, but I donate and go to the annual meetings and things like that. And fun thing was, I was president during the 100th anniversary. We had this big ball up at
Oh,
the top
wow.
of the William Penn celebrating that. And that was so much fun. That was really, really cool to be there at that time. And the College Club have been very active in that since I joined. We had a bridge club out from that. A couples club. We were close with them. You know, there's couples that we were close with. And I had a literary group out of College Club. College Club had several small groups, you know, and met some very nice people that I would have met otherwise. And I also belonged to a group in Mount Lebanon, started in our church, called Women's Fortnightly Review.
oh,
It started in 1911 because they felt it wasn't intellectual enough out here, the women.
Oh.
And so P.D. Shaw, which belonged to our church and sang in the choir, invited me to join. He had to be invited me to join this, and we did. You were assigned a subject, and you had a 20-minute paper to read to the group once a year. And we met twice fortnightly. We met twice a month, and you went and you listened to 2 papers, and you got up and stretched. And you listened to a third one.
Wow.
There was but we did have teas, and we had our own silver and all that stuff. And we did have a dinner with our husbands once a year. But this is when I wasn't working, and I loved the group. I mean, I did one on polo. I went down and interviewed them, and one of the ones I did, I'm not really great on math, and I was assigned this math, like cubism or something, you know. So I thought, okay, what do I do? So I took it into the art and took the artist that did that system and lectured on the artist and you know, instead of just math and so forth. And that was kind of fun to do because the president got to chose a subject, and the person who was in charge of not social, but you know, program, assigned papers. And I loved that. I thought that was so, particularly because I wasn't doing anything intellectual anyway, you know.
Right.
But I thought that group was great. And I met some wonderful women, women I would not have known otherwise, who were in that group. As I said, it was limited to 40 because it was in the homes. And then at 90 years, we disbanded.
Oh.
And but that was that college club and the hospital were the 3 things that I did when I wasn't working that I loved, just really enjoyed.
Well, Roberta, this has been so great to talk to you. I really, it's fascinating and it's been fun. So I wondered if is there any scripture verse that's a favorite for you that you'd like to share with us?
Well, the 23rd Psalm, definitely. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Okay, I'll to get to it first. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I mean, just that alone starts off. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And the second one
Sure.
would be Philippians 6. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. Those are my two favorites. There are many others that I like, but those are my two favorites.
That one the Philippians one seems to support what you were telling me earlier, where you feel like that even if you fall off a cliff, you know that God has you.
Right.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. It does. You can go to the end and nth degree, and God will be there.
Yes.
Yeah. I really feel that. Oh, as I said, I've always felt the same way. It's just the whole, Christianity and my religion have been just so much a part of my life. I mean, not just there, but a real part of my life forever. But then I grew up with that. It was a part of their lives. And all the way back, it was a part of their lives. You think of the people, the farmers and the merchants, that was the big thing.
So grateful for the faithful witness over all those generations.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Very much so.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your faith with us and all these fun things about you. You have quite a remarkable life, and you're just a real inspiration. So thank you.
You're quite welcome.
We really appreciate it. Thanks.
It's been a pleasure.